Hello, I'm Eric, and welcome to my madness. As you can see from the title card, today what I'm going to be doing is looking over Robert Pearce's Traveler Geomorphs. He did 4 books plus a fifth, kind of. The first one he put out was actually the Starship Maps, which isn't listed on the title card here. But that one had about a dozen ship maps, which I included as some of my downloads. But then I made image files for all of his geomorphs in the Starship Geomorphs 2.0 PDF that he put out. And shortly after that, he put out the top right is the Starship symbols. Starship symbols is uh, just kind of pieces of maps that you can put together to make your own. And then he went on, he did just recently here the Adventure Class Starship Geomorphs and the Adventure Class blanks. Now, right now, I'm not going to be doing the blanks. I haven't even started working on those yet, but I have just finished up the Adventure Class Geomorphs, and I thought I would show how to use these. Now, the first thing that you need, obviously, is to get to uh, Richard Pearce's page and download the uh, the geomorphs. So first thing I'm going to do is go to
Welcome to the Dominion.
my web page here, where you can see my list of links. Now, I thought I fixed this. Is it
Welcome to the Dominion.
refresh? Updated it. I moved the geomorphs link to the top. From there, you can go to my page, and this is not refreshed here either. So I need to do an F5 to refresh it to show the new page. For whatever reason, it's not updating, is getting the cached version. You might need to force a refresh to get the updated page. So on the updated page, I added the buy me a coffee link, which you can go ahead and use if you want, but you don't need to. However, I have also added links to all of his geomorph PDFs and the blog posts that he made. So you can get the geomorph PDFs directly from my website, or go to his page and follow his download links. This is the Starships one, where he has half a dozen or so starships. But the most recent one is the Adventure Class Geomorph, which he just put out. And this one, I'll be showing some tips and tricks on how to use the PDF and how to use the image files that I've generated from the PDF. So the first thing you're going to need to do is go down to the list of links and download all of the map tiles. Now I have these in 2 different resolutions, the standard resolution and the high resolution. I actually prefer the standard resolution for most things. The high resolution, mostly I use it for creating the larger maps, and I shrink it down to the standard resolution, which is 1/5 the size, which takes up a lot less memory when you're using it. So you're going to want to download the zip files, which contain all of the images, which I have done here in a folder on my desktop. I have all the zip files and all the PDFs. The next thing you're going to need to do, of course, is to unzip all the zip files. I use 7-zip for this, but you can use any zipping program you want. I'm putting each of these into a separate folder. It's going to take just a second to run through these. Each folder has a number of subfolders. The Adventure Class, which is the one I just put out, has all the images in listed by chapter in the book. So you got chapter 1 is the half geomorphs, chapter 2 is the long geomorphs. A few of the chapters are broken into sections. Chapter 7 has long cores, short core, and half cores. So the first thing you're going to need to do when you want to make a map is you're going to want to set up your program. Now for me, I use the paint.net image editing program with two specific plugins, which I reference on my web page. I'll scroll down here to paint.net, where I have a written description of some of the stuff I'm going to go over. But the two main plugins I use are the PSD Photoshop plugin. This allows you to open and save into Photoshop format, and TR Pseudo-Snap. Pseudo-Snap is what it sounds like. It's a fake snapping. It allows you to snap image sections to a specific location. In this case, I'm going to be able to move the geomorph tiles so that they are exactly positioned pixel for pixel, where the doors will line up and the maps will line up. And you can make a map very quickly using this combination of paint.net and Pseudo-Snap. So next thing I'm going to need to do, I'm going to show you how to make a few, and the ones we're going to make are in the Adventure Class PDF. Get that open here in a second. And switching to my other monitor. Oh, there we go. And here I have this open to section 11, the ships that he's made. And each one of these ships that he's made, he lists out the geomorph tiles that he's used on that ship. And because of that, we can very quickly and easily make files. And I have a visitor. Got my little kitty here. She wants some attention. Unfortunately, kitty, Minerva, gonna need to get back to what I'm doing. Anyway, so he has a list of the tiles that he used to make this map, which will make it very easy for us to grab the tiles and work it out. So back on my main screen, I have my paint.net program. I'm going to go into the Adventure Class folder, and one of the folders in here is called Baseplate, and this contains a number of files that can be used to create a baseplate for building a map on. I have checkerboard, and then 4 different hex and 4 different square layouts, some with transparent, some with white pixels. The transparent are most useful if you want to lay the grid over top of the map, whereas the ones with the white background, you lay it underneath the map. And the main difference there is whether or not the grid is going to appear over top of, like, furniture and machinery components, or underneath it. I prefer it to be underneath. But if you get the Geomorphs download, I included in this one, in the baseplate folder, a PSD file. I didn't include it in my Adventure Class because this takes a couple extra megabytes. I didn't want to add it to the file. But I'm going to copy this into the Adventure Class folder for now. And this just adds all of these together in one file. Now, with the checkerboard background, if you look at it, squares is one of the quarter geomorphs. So 4 squares is one of the full-size geomorphs from his first launch. This allows the layout of very large maps, so you don't necessarily need all of this, but it gives you a lot of room to build on. And then once you're done, you can cut it down to just what you want to keep. Get rid of the extra layers, get rid of the various extras and tiles that you're not going to need. So here on my screen, I have a second monitor showing, and this I've got one monitor with all the files open and one monitor with my paint.net program. So I'm going to be dragging stuff from one monitor to the other. Now here is my Geomorphs PDF, and I have the tiles that I'm going to need: AO35, SC7, and AO35 again. That's the port and starboard AO35. SC7 is the centerpiece. So I'm going to start out by grabbing that image file. So coming over to my folder, I'm going to look for the SC, which is short core. That's chapter 8.2, and it's SC, oh, wrong one, 7.2 short core, and SC7. So I'm going to drag this onto paint.net, and it's going to ask me if I want to open it or add layers. I'm going to add layers. We add a layer on, and you can see that entire geomorph takes up just this tiny section. We can zoom into that section by doing Control and using our mouse wheel to go in. And now I've accidentally grabbed it and moved it around, but that's okay, because I'm going to pseudo snap it into place in a second here. But I just wanted to get it zoomed in a little bit. Now for pseudo snap, that goes under the effects listing in paint.net. The first thing we need to do when we drag in an image, it has just the image area selected. So we need to deselect that area. Now you can do that a number of ways. Just hitting enter will do it. Also grab the selection tool and click somewhere else to deselect, or you can select all, which isn't deselecting it, but it is will grab the entire image. See, the thing is with pseudo snap is if you have a small area selected and you move the image outside of that selected area, it doesn't carry it over. So you need to deselect it in order to use pseudo snap. And I'll show you what that means here by just grabbing it. Now, pseudo snap is under Object and then TR pseudo snap in the effects. We'll open that up. The grid size I need is 100 by 100. You'll see that image just disappeared. Now the default is 100 by 100, but I'm going to want 120 by 120. The reason for that is that all the square tiles, or all the tile layouts, are in multiples of 60. A 60 by 60 square is one square on the map. So you need to move it in either 60s or 120s to line things up. Now I'm going to move this down and over a bit and see if I can catch it. There it is. And now I'm going to move it horizontally a little bit at a time, and you'll see it moves over. But once it gets out of the selection area, it starts to disappear. So that's why we need to deselect in order to use pseudo snap. Now I just hit OK. What I'm going to do is undo the pseudo snap and then deselect it by hitting enter, and then I'm going to do pseudo snap again. Now what I've done is mapped a macro shortcut onto my mouse. Alt C, O for object, enter, because I have object and object align on my map here, but if you only have object, you don't need to hit enter. So Alt C, O, enter, and then T. And if you have multiple listings under object, because you have more plugins, if you have multiple listings with T, you might need to hit T multiple times and select it. Now here with pseudo snap, we see it retain the 120 by 120 grid that I had put in, which it will do until you restart the program, at which point it'll go back to default 100 by 100. So the useful thing with this is we're going to be using the 120 or possibly 60 for most things today. Now I'm going to reset these to 0, and you'll see if I reset it to 0, it's going to move this back up to its default position where it started at originally. And then we can move this over as much as we want to make room for adding more tiles to the sides. Now, if you notice, that was 5 clicks over. I have my mouse wheel set in Windows to go 5 lines at a time. So I can go 0, 5, 10, 15, and it lines up with each one of these square grids. So now I have it lined up with the one on the left here. If we go back to the PDF on my other monitor, we remember that it's AO35 as the 2 legs that are attached to the centerpiece. So I'm going to go into the AO folder, which is add-ons. And this is AO35, and I'm going to need both halves of it. So I can import both by just grabbing both, dragging them over to paint.net, and then saying add layers. But I'm going to need to select each layer one at a time to position it into place. So this one is my right leg. And I'm going to use my pseudo snap plugin, which first thing it does, it presses enter. Then it does Alt C and it goes over to grab pseudo snap, and it does that so quick you can't even see it. But it allows me to very quickly and easily maneuver this around. Horizontal movement, I need to click it down a couple to get it to line up. And I notice here that this is off by one square basically, which means that this is lined up by 60s instead of 120. So I'm going to change my horizontal grid over to 60 here. I'm going to need to double this to about 15 to get it to line up. And we see it moves 60 pixels at a time. That's 1 square's worth, and positioned it perfectly. So now I'm going to select the other leg layer and go TR pseudo snap. And that positioned it way over here. So I need to cut down the horizontal movement to get it to place. Horizontal movement to 0, put it right where I want it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in, and we can look at the doors here. These doors are aligned pixel for pixel perfect, with the numbers showing. And at this point, this map is technically finished as far as the geomorphs that I'm going to be using. It's only using 3 geomorphs. It's got the centerpiece and the 2 legs. That's the 2 leg layers and the centerpiece layer. So I'm going to take that, merge them down. To make it one map. I'm going to go down to my checkerboard layer. Now what I can do here is I can select squares on this checkerboard where I'm going to cut the map size down. I've got this all selected. I used my magic wand selection to get each square individually. Or you can use the area selection to just grab a bunch. And this right here I can crop. So I can go into edit and select crop. Let's see, I think it's under edit. Or is it view? No. Image, crop to selection. Or I have a shortcut macro on my mouse. It crops it to right there. Now at this point, I've got it cropped to where I want it. I don't need the checkerboard layer anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. But I'm going to do a double square. Now the double square, each square grid on the map is, this is 1.5 meter or 5 foot square. And they're grouped into 10 by 10 sections. And you can see that by default, this is perfectly aligned to the map with the squares. Got the white background that I need. This map right here is done, other than if I want it to be exactly like the PDF, PDF has it laying sideways. So we can rotate the image, rotate counterclockwise 90 degrees, and this right here is a completed map. Last thing we need to do, we take our layer selection area here, and I'm going to flatten it. Nope, I'm sorry. That's merge down. That just merges the one layer into the one below it, which isn't what I want to do. What I want to do, I think it's under image, flatten. This squashes it all down into one layer, one map. And the name of this is Domino Class Cargo Transport. So I'm going to just save this off. And by default, this is Photoshop. I want this in PNG. I'm just going to save file. Boom, one map completed. So now I'm going to go back into my folder here and go into base plates and open the base plate again. Ready to build another map. Now we'll go into the PDF, and I'm going to be building the next item on here. So that was the Dynamo. The next one is the Guardian Class Diplomatic Courier. And here, this is a long starship. He's got SE, which is a short end front, SE short end aft, and SH, which is a short geomorph. So I'm going to need 3 geomorphs. I'm going to start out with the rearmost one. Actually, I'm going to start out with the frontmost one, SE244. So again, I've got my base plate. I want short end for 244. So I'm going to be able to go down here to find 244. Now you could also use the Windows search. Sometimes that doesn't work great. Sometimes it works perfect. Or they're all named in number order. So you just scroll down until you find the right one. We're going to add the layer. You can see right here that this is okay lined up, but it's kind of close to the edge. And we're going to do 2 morphs behind it, one of which is kind of wide. So I'm going to move this over 1 square. I'm going to go into my pseudo snap. Now this automatically keeps all the settings from the last time you used it. So I'm going to reset the vertical alignment because the height is fine, but I need to move it over. I'm going to set this back to 120. Then 5 at a time we'll move it over 1 square. So that piece is placed. The next one I'm going to need is the SH44. So that's the short end. Let's see. $44. Drag it in, add layer. Our pseudo snap. It moved it over widthwise. Now I need to move the vertical down two squares, which that's just 2 clicks on my mouse wheel at 5 rows. Boom. Second map tile is in place. The last one is a short end rear, and I don't remember the number on it. It's SE598. So I just need to scroll down to find SE598. Let's see. Grab that and drop it on here. Add layer. TR pseudo snap on my mouse, which deselects and then opens up the plugin. We'll move down vertical another 5. Horizontal isn't lining up though. I have to do 4 for whatever reason. Oh, because it's got the wings on it. The geomorph tile is actually a little bit wider. So if I did 5 more, it would go over one perfect square. But because the original tile is kind of wide because of these wings, I have to do 4 for the first horizontal move. But if we zoom in and look, we can see that the doors are again perfectly aligned. And this is one of the things you can do with any program you're using to align it. If I grab that map tile and I move it down one pixel, you can see that it partially cut off the number. And that's because these tiles, let me grab the one in the middle here and I'll shut it down. These tiles have an exact alignment. If I get rid of the checkerboard and background layers, you can see there's basically a hole in it. So when another tile is laid on top of it, when a tile is underneath another tile, the door number shows through. But if you change the positioning so that the other layer is on the bottom, then there's holes in the other layer that allow the numbers from that layer to show through. So it doesn't matter which layer is on top, the numbers always show through. And these numbers, they have an underline underneath it to help you see the orientation, because obviously this looks like it could be 8, 6, 5 something, but it needs to be rotated the other way because of this underline in order to properly read it. And if we go up to the top door here, we'll see it's SE244. That's the top geomorph. As you're entering from the bottom and going up, you're entering SE244. If you were coming the other direction, you'd be entering SH044. From this side, as you're going up, you're entering SH044. But going down, you're entering SE598. What I'm going to do, let's go back to our checkerboard layer, and I'm going to turn that on. Use my magic wand selection tool on the checkerboard layer. And I can select all the tiles that I want to keep for this map. Go all around the periphery, and then I select the rectangle selection tool and pick up all the ones in the middle real quick. And then macro key to crop to selection. Now for this map, I think I'm going to go with a hex pixelated. So if we zoom in, we can see the hexes. Each of these hexes is a standard 1 yard, 1 meter, or 3 feet across. I'm going to get rid of the checkerboard layer. Whoop, got rid of the wrong one. I'm going to undo that. Control Z, undo, use that a lot. Select the checkerboard layer. Whoop, and then delete the checkerboard layer. Turn the white background layer on. Now, one of the things I was saying about the hexes, or this applies to the squares as well, the positioning of the layers will depend on if you see it underneath or over top of the furniture, like the beds or the fuel tanks, other machinery, the computers. If we take this layer and we move it all the way to the top using our move layer button, you can see that this just appeared over top of our map. Some people may prefer to have the hexes, or we can do it with the squares as well, may prefer to have it over top of the map, where it goes over top of whatever furniture is or doors or whatever. But personally, like I said, I prefer it underneath where the furniture hides the squares. like I said, for this map, I want to do a horizontal instead of a vertical, or a square instead of, or a hex instead of a square. So let's turn off the square. We'll keep just the hex. We're going to rotate it once. Control G rotates counterclockwise. Control H goes clockwise. And boom. Now we have a map. All I have to do is flatten it, which is Control Shift F, or go into your layers and select, I think it's under layers, select flatten or image. Flatten. Yeah, under image, select flatten. And I can save this as a PNG file. Now if we go over into the PDF, this is the Guardian Class Diplomatic Courier. And we're going to change that to PNG format, PDN, PNG. And that's a completed map. Now I'm going to undo the flattening we just did. And I'm going to save this again. And it's because it's got multiple layers now, I'm going to save it as a paint.net or PSD format, which you can do either one. But now in the PSD format, I have all these layers here. I can turn them on and off. So I can take the same map, it's saved with the layers, and I can decide to use the double square or the regular square grid on it. And if you save it off as a PNG file, you can import this into like a virtual tabletop program. And in that virtual tabletop program, maybe you don't want the square grid at all. You want it completely gridless and let the virtual tabletop take care of that. So now we can Control Shift F to flatten it. We can save it again as a PNG file. You could do JPEG, but JPEG you tend to lose a little bit of information. I prefer PNG. But we'll do courier and then no grid. And boom, we got ourselves a PNG file that we could import this into the virtual tabletop and just have it throw the grids out for us. And if you looked at how the grids were aligned originally, the door is roughly 2 squares across if you're going to overlay a square grid on it. Or from wall to wall here, that would be 6 squares across. So you can just kind of align the virtual tabletop square grid right onto that. But you see, this is pretty much exact image of the map that's in the PDF over here. So as you can see, it's very quick and easy to put together maps by just throwing in a tile or two, using TR pseudo snap to align everything, and then boom, you've got yourself a map that you can use in a virtual tabletop, or like with my setup, I have a projector on my ceiling that puts it down onto the table. So I don't need to use any other program other than Photoshop or paint.net to open the image up, and I can lay it out. So simple and easy. Now that I put in all the work to convert everything and have it ready to go. So I guess that's the end of the tutorial, and you have yourselves a good day. Bye. And where's the stop? Oh no.